Welcome to Link's Crafts. Today I'm going to be making Vah Rudania from Breath of the Wild. The place where the legs will be mounted, I got this thicker cardboard tubing, which can also be used to scale the rest of the body. For the body, I'll be using some XPS foam. But first, to make sure I don't mess up any scaling issues like I normally do, I printed and cut out a template I got online. I'll link the 3D model I used as a main reference in the description. With the head and tail added and everything lining up how I hoped it would, I can begin to craft. After cutting out the rough sides of the body, I can add another piece of foam below to get the correct height. I can then glue the two together. I'm carving some small grooves into the foam so that the glue has something to hold on to. After the glue's dried, I can begin to shape the body. I'll use my X-Acto knife to remove some of the smaller bits of foam, but for the rest, I can use my hot wire table. But before I do that, I want to mark out where these bean-shaped vents are with my template. I can then take my body outside so I can use the hot wire. After a lot of the foam has been removed, it's starting to take shape. Planning out what to do next, I labeled the neck and the tail to make it easier for you to know which way the body was facing. I definitely didn't get confused multiple times and try to figure out which side was which. Why would you think that? Anyway, with the body properly labeled, I can begin to add the joints for the legs. With one messily cut, I can do the rest. After each leg segment was cut, I had to vacuum up the mess. With all of them done, I can begin to glue them in place. Before gluing each of them though, I scored the back sides so that way the glue could hold better. With that done, we can move on to the head. The head's definitely an interesting shape, and while I would have liked to be able to make it open to reveal the laser gun inside, I also wanted LED lights for the eyes, and I didn't think I could do both. After all of the triangles for the head have been cut out, I can glue them together. With them all together, it's looking pretty good. I can then add the back of the head before cutting out a little hole so that the LEDs can go inside. With the pencil, I can then mark out where each of the eyes will go. Each eye can get one of these small rings. I can then demonstrate the incorrect way to use one of these knives as I use it to try and carve out the hole for the LED light, which, after a quick test, is looking pretty good. I can then start to carve out the little spiny things that go around the head. After finishing each one, they can all be glued in place. For the piece that separates each segment of the head, I used a strip of styrene, which was a mistake as it would have been easier and looked better to use craft foam. For the pointy tip at the end, I used a piece of XPS foam but ended up trimming it down a little. With a marker, I can then mark out the little Sheikah designs around each eye. For the curved section, I split another one of those reins. We have a head and a body, but to connect them we need a neck. I'm cutting a piece of XPS foam at an angle to make the head looking to the side slightly. After deciding where it will go exactly, I can mark it out with my marker. I can then carve out the tunnel for the wires, as unlike most of my projects, the battery pack will be hidden in the body. With that done, I can begin to add the details to the neck, starting with the sidewall plates that go on either side. These are made of foam board and glued together at a slight angle before being glued in place. Before being fully attached to the body though, I can add some smaller details with some craft foam. With those glued in place, we can add the slanted scaly bits on the top and the bottom. For the curves, I got this jar of peanuts which has a similar looking angle to it. After sanding it so the glue holds a little better, I can cut it to the shape I need. After seeing how it looks on the neck, I can then take my marker and mark out each of the sections. These can then be cut in sections with a strip of craft foam. For the gap in the back, I'm shoving in a small piece of foam board. Cutting out some more foam board, I can carve it in the shape of the curly details on the top of the neck. With the top done, I can do the same to the bottom. With the neck done, I can glue the head in place. Back to the body, we can start to work on the curved, spiky spine thing that goes over the whole body. After drawing out the rough shape on some foam board, I can begin to cut it out and add the details. To give it a stronger look, I cut out a second one that can be glued to the first. I can then cut the end piece off before carving it a little so it's at an angle with the rest of the body. I can then begin to carve out the spikes. With the spikes glued in place, we're one step closer to making Vah Rudania. The next step is to make some of the supports that hold up the spine. These are carved from XPS foam. After making 4 of them, I'll get distracted and start cutting out the little vents. I can then use a bit of craft foam to add detail to the sides. I cut and carved a disc of craft foam for where the central control point will be. Back to the vents. I'm using this plastic cup as I thought the sides looked very similar to the vents. Since the plastic is somewhat transparent, I can use it to mark out the shape of the vents. I'm using my knife to add a bit of a curve to each vent. After they've all been glued in place, I can go back to adding the supports for the spine. I can use a slightly bent piece of foam board to connect them. After gluing the pillars in place and cutting the beam at an angle, I can mark out where it will go on the spine using a difficult three-handed maneuver only the experts can pull off. After cutting a bit out, I can then glue it in place. After gluing the second one in place, I can begin to add the scales on each beam. With them all added, I can add a bit more detail using craft foam before moving on to the tail. The tail starts as a roughly cut block of XPS foam that gets some window-looking walls on either side. Next, we can work on the top of the tail. It starts off as another block of XPS foam before I begin to round out the edges. I can then cut and carve out the entrance to the beast. And then carve some more craft foam, which can be the layered roof. After bulking out both, they can be glued together. It's looking pretty good, but before we work on the bottom, let's add some extra details to the top. Namely the railing, which will help Link not fall off. We can round off some craft foam for the place where the tail will connect. We can use similar methods as the top for the bottom of the tail base. These smaller pieces of foam are glued in place to help elevate extra layers. It's a bit uneven, but since it's the bottom, you won't really be able to see it. After it's been glued in place, I can continue to add smaller pieces of foam for extra detail. For the bottom details, I found it easier to make them individually than as one big piece. With the tail base done, we can begin to build the rest of it. It starts as multiple small blocks of foam. All the blocks are cut at an angle to give the tail a curve, before each individual piece has its edges rounded. They are all then glued together and pieces of craft foam are used to make it look like one piece. The end of the tail starts as a block of foam, lengthened with a piece of foam board. The larger hammer-looking bottom, I glued 2 foam pieces together. This is then marked and carved to give each side a bit of an angle. The bottom can then get a rim of craft foam. The pieces on each side are carved from XPS foam and glued in place. I can then cut a groove into some foam board before cutting and gluing it in place. To add a bottom to the tail, I'm gluing it to a piece of craft foam and cutting around the edge. I can then begin to add details to the top of the tail. To ensure I had cleaner cuts throughout the project, I made sure to change out my blade every once in a while. For the gear at the end of the tail, I used my compass to mark out the circular shape before individually marking out each cog. I actually ended up making 2 as I wasn't proud of the first one. With most of the detailing in place, I can glue everything together. With the end of the tail done, I can move back onto the main section and add spikes to the top. With the tail done, we can move on to the body of the beast. I'm a bit scared to work on the legs, so I'm going to work on the bottom of the body and everything else. After a quick progress check, it's looking pretty good. Now let's work on these parts. With a bit of a shake, some foam board can be glued in place. the edges of each leg joint thinny can get a strip of craft foam. For the tops, I carved in this pattern on some craft foam. And with a bit of struggle, each is done and can be glued in place. For the actual place where the legs will be mounted, I have some water bottle caps. After they've all been glued in place, I can use some gear charms to add some detail. And then add some more detail with craft foam. To extend the leg mounts, I can use this roll that once carried paper towels. Each piece is cut at roughly the same size before getting glued in place. Each hole can get covered with a slanted circle of foam board. These parts right here can then get covered with some more craft foam. On either side of the leg mounts, I can add these little details made of foam board. Throughout this build, I found myself questioning some of the main functionality of some of these pieces, but I'm sure they're important. The belly of the beast will be divided in 3 sections. I'm going to start with the middle one as it's the easiest and has the least amount of detail. After gluing the frame together, I can just glue on some foam board. With this strip of craft foam, the center is done. Using the same process, I can make the second section. Before adding any detailing, I had to carve out a place for the leg mounts to go. To hide the gap in the connection between the tail and the body, I decided to add a strip of craft foam here. I can then add the details, starting with the lifted edge for the leg mounts. Thinking about it now, I could probably call the front 2 shoulders and the back 2 hips. I'm a little upset that I just realized that now, though. Anyways, after adding both the hip details, I can add the small edge before working on the bottom spines. I almost started working on the front section before remembering I had planned to put the battery housing here, so let's carve that out now. After a bit of fiddling, it fits pretty good. I made the frame off camera so it was out of the way. After trimming the wires, I can connect them together. It did take a bit of fiddling to get the battery pack through, but it ended up working out. I can then cover the frame in craft foam before adding all the details. While the front will be removable to change the batteries, I didn't want to have to open it every time to turn the lights on or off, so I cut a hole to access the switch. I also added some more foam board underneath to help position the battery pack. I also added some on either side. After making sure everything was in place, I can glue in the head. With that, we can move on to the section I've been avoiding, the legs. If I don't do this right, I'll have to start over, which will waste a lot of time I don't want to waste. However, since it's the only thing I can do before painting, and I can't leave Vah Rudania like this, I must try. Like everything else, I'm starting with some XPS foam, cutting it into a smaller block. I can then take my template and count how many leg segments each leg will need. After counting, I found each one would need about 15, which means in total I need to make 60. After cutting the foam into a smaller and smaller block, I can draw out the rough diamond shape. After carving the first leg segment, I cut out a larger template on some foam board. After testing it, I could begin to make the legs. It took about 2 minutes to carve out each leg segment and 30 minutes for all of them. I ended up using only 12 segments per leg and using a bead in between each one. For the bones of each leg, I got some of this armature wire. Looking back, I should have combined 2 pieces for extra strength, but I didn't because I didn't think I would need to. After testing the legs and seeing that they didn't stand properly, I decided to do the only smart decision I could think of. Forget they didn't work and assemble them all. This was an incredibly stupid decision on my part. Anyways, the feet can start as a piece of foam board that I'm carving into shape. Marking out where the toes will go, I can go back to the leg and start assembling it. While it's looking good, I didn't think that carving out each individual leg segment was painful enough, and decided to torture myself by adding a small rim of craft foam to each leg. While it was tedious and take a long time, I will admit it looks pretty good. And here's another time lapse, because this part of the craft took nearly 4 hours, and skipping by it with just one leg didn't feel right. And with all the legs done, we can move on to the feet. While it still doesn't stand, hopefully the feet will help that. And yeah, it didn't really do anything at all, but I still had an idea. There's a bit of wire at the end, so I curled it before pushing a screw through it and the shoulder. It was really helpful, but still, it didn't fully stand. I didn't know how to fix it. After thinking, I figured I could try putting one of the pins used in mounting furniture to the wall on the other side. With some patience and hot glue, it worked. After screwing the rest of the legs in and testing it, I could breathe a sigh of relief and add some of the final details. I first put a magnet in the front of the chest to help it stay more secure. And then add a small gear charm to act as the Sheikah teleport pad thing. I can then begin to make each individual foot. Toes start out as these two beads glued together. After they've been glued in place, I can start to carve out each individual toe. First attempt was a bit small, but my next attempt was the right size. After finishing all the toes for the first foot, I can do that all again 9 more times. Add another layer of foam board to each foot to give it some more strength and support. After all of the feet are done, I can glue them in place. Before painting, I decided to take some modeling paste to try and fill in any gaps or holes. I can messily apply this with a brush before wiping the excess away. With that done, I can take out my larger hobby mat and begin to paint, starting with a black primer. Pouring in the Mod Podge, I got some sort of glue clot thingy. I don't know why it happened, but luckily it didn't fall in and give our Divine Beast heart issues. While I did add a lot of Mod Podge and black paint in this first batch, it ended up only being about half of what I needed. When applying the primer, I tried to spread the paint out more so it would keep from pooling in the cracks and corners. Thanks to the Mod Podge and the primer, I accidentally glued the battery chest piece in place, forcing me to have to cut it out. After removing the chest piece, I can begin to paint. To start, I'm going to base coat everything beige with my airbrush. Tried to keep my edges sharp while airbrushing, but later abandoned it. After base coating the beige bits with a bit of beige, I'm using a small brush to clean up my messy work. You might think there's enough beige bits already, but there's still a lot of beige left to go. After painting all the rims on the right legs, we can move on to the left ones. After that's done, we can continue to paint all the small details. My brushwork is a bit sloppy. The Divine Beasts are over 10,000 years old, so any painting mistakes I make, I'm just chalking up to wear and tear from being underground and in a volcano. Most of the beige bits fully painted, I can move on to the darker grays. While painting, I decided to open the game back up and found that the tail was mostly gray instead of beige. Luckily, I was able to fix it. I mixed together a drop of gray with the beige so it was a shade darker before dry brushing it on both the beige and gray parts to add some detailing. It adds a subtle bit of detail, and I think it looks pretty good. Moving back to the body, it can add more of the beige and gray details. I can then brush on a lighter gray on top of the shoulders and hips. The same shade can then be applied to all the vents. I can then add some gray to the spikes and spine. After stippling on a darker beige, I can go around the diorama and clean up all the smaller details. After that, everything gets a stippled dry brush of a dark beige. After that, I can add the evil red Malus. After that, I can install the batteries. Glue in the center control area, which I painted off camera. Install the tail. And with that, we're done. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. The music in the background is by Scott Buckley, link in the description. If you want me to make another divine beast, such as Vah Ruta or Naboris, or have another craft idea, let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully, my next craft won't take as long. Until then, I'll see you later.